Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you all for joining. My name is Julie. I'm the head of customer success on the CloudApp team. We're all very excited to hear Darcy's presentation today. Darcy has a diverse experience working with customers, from serving Marines as a captain in the United States Marine Corps to helping moms get fit as a former fitness franchise at Fit for Mom. Now she's been loving life as a happiness lead at Buffer for the past year. I mean, how can you not start your day wrong when you know that happiness is in your title? Or start your day wrong. We have a short time today together with Darcy and a lot of information to cover, so we're going to get started. She's going to move quickly through this, but if you have any questions, feel free to chat us and Darcy will answer the questions at the end. You can see a Q&A button on the top left corner of your screen where you can do this. Take it away, Darcy.
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here with the CloudApp community. And as Julie mentioned, I'll be running fast through this just because I want to stock a bunch of information in here for you in a short amount of time so that you can get back to your Wednesdays, do what you were doing. But always feel free to tweet us at Buffer or at the Darcy Peters, leaving your questions in the Q&A, and then there will also be a blog post at the end. So let's see. Okay, a satisfied customer is the best business strategy of all. We all know that if you're here, right? I'm going to talk about 4 components that help us at Buffer create a great customer experience. At least we hope so. Now, these aren't tenets. These aren't things that we've written down, but these are things that inspire most of us. And as happiness heroes, we have a lot of autonomy as we go through our journey with our customers. And so we all do things a little bit differently, but I just wanted to share a few things that have inspired me. So positivity. Now that's a huge piece of Buffer. Now there's a lot that goes into positivity. You know, you can think about putting a smile on your face when someone walks into your office. Well, how do you do that over email? And how do you do that while also showing empathy? So matching someone's tone shows empathy. Thinking of positivity as your mental state. How are you feeling as you are serving this customer? Do you have your own optimism that you're going to be able to resolve things? Do you believe them? Do you respect them? That's all feeds into your positivity and your attitude as you respond back to them. Now, matching their tone is super important because if someone comes into your office in person, if someone came into your office and they're flailing their arms and they're yelling at you and they're very frustrated, you probably wouldn't greet them with a big smile and say, wow, thanks so much for reaching out to us. I'm so glad to hear from you today. You know, as much as you want to say that to someone because you know you're going to be able to solve their issue, they're just not there yet. So matching their tone is something that we really focus on in just if they do come in like that, when we email back, we're going to be a little bit more straightforward. We're going to be kind, but we're going to be a bit more straightforward. We're not going to add in fluffy words and a lot of jabber, around the issue. We just want to get straight to the point. Also, positivity doesn't equal forced optimism. So we don't want to place on our customers this huge optimism that, hey, everything's going to be resolved for you, no worries, because you know what? Again, they're not there yet. We haven't resolved it for them. So they just don't understand that it's coming. And then lastly, lowering the intensity of your optimism, even when you're convinced you'll create a fix. This goes back to the last one. But what I'm saying is, if you go in and you're saying, oh, this is a horrible experience, but yay, I know we've got this solved for you. And then a week later, they come back to you and they're like, hello, you said that you got this solved. You're going to resolve this for me, and you haven't. And you have to come back and say, I'm so sorry. Our engineers decided that this was more of a signal and we're just not in the place to correct this at this time. So now they've lost your trust. So just keeping that positivity internally, giving them respect, showing that through your words, but being where they are, meeting them where they are. So here's an example of that from one of our happiness heroes, Daniel. We call him D, and D saw this customer email where she was saying, hey, I'm having this issue. And, she says, I need to get back to this client ASAP, which is like high anxiety. Can you help? And then she shows some positivity at the end. You can see that she's probably a smiley person. And D comes back and says, hey, I understand the issue. It's a known issue. Here is a workaround. So giving her some sort of resolution, and then saying, hey, I'll be standing by if I can help any way further. He added an exclamation point like she did, kind of mirroring that positivity. And then she comes back and says, thank you, you solved my problem per usual, Team Buffer, which was, whoa, like when Dee saw that, he was probably just enthused, because that is such an accomplishment. If you work in customer service, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So he comes back with a GIF, which is very quintessential Buffer. Going on to transparency, which is another very, very a high focus of ours internally and with our customers. We owe it to our customers to say no. Now, you always hear about being a yes person, but that's not great in customer service if you can't follow through with that. Because if you say, yes, this is a great suggestion that you just gave us, and I see this in our way forward, and then they come back to you 3 years later, which has happened, and they say, why has this been on your user voice, which is a voting platform, for 3 years now? At one point someone told us that this was going to come to fruition, and it never has. So it's okay to say no. It's okay to say not yet. It's okay to say, I'm not sure. But being realistic, being transparent with our customers is going to go a very long way to retain their trust. So that I just covered that second one. Can you really fix this issue? It also goes into bugs. Do you know for sure that this issue will be fixed? Or should you say, I hear you, this is painful, we're giving you a horrible experience right now, I'm gonna link up with an engineer and I will be back to you to give you an update no matter what. So you're not saying, I will fix this for you. You're saying, my commitment to you is that I will meet with my engineer and then I will get back to you. That's all they wanna hear. And lastly, this is very out of the box sometimes, but is your service or product really the best choice for the prospective customer? The answer might be no. You might want to fit them into your box, but you can't necessarily, and they're probably not going to be a customer for very long if they don't fit into that box. And this happens at Buffer where, someone will come and they say, I really need scheduling and listening in social media. And they say, it's okay if it's within a year to have that listening, because I know you don't have it yet. So we could go back and say, yeah, we're thinking about it. And, because in our minds, it's a year out, maybe we'll do it. But no, that's not the right thing to do in this case. This is, listening is not something that we are actively moving towards as a company. So it is best to go back to the customer and we will give them our competitors, and say, this would be this might be a better platform for you with what you're looking for. Now, if you're interested in this or that, or having a secondary listening component with your Buffer, let's make that work together. But if you want them together, here are your options. So just being transparent surprises and delights folks. Ross is one of our happiness leads, and he came to someone and said, hey, drafts is something we have in the works right now. I don't have an ETA just yet, but it's definitely on our radar. So he was saying, you know what, this is something that we are thinking about, because it's true, we are thinking about it, but I don't have an ETA. I'm really sorry about that. It would be easy for him to say, I foresee it, within the next, before the end of the year, but he didn't say that. He made sure to be transparent with them, but was able, luckily, to say that we are thinking about it. If we weren't thinking about it, he would say that. Humility. Was it your fault? Did you give them misinformation? Do you have a bug in your system? Did you have a false, a bad shipment? Whatever it may be, tell them that you recognize that it was your fault and how it was your fault, so that they understand, okay, this is someone I can work with. Saying I'm sorry does not show weakness. Instead, it actually shows courage. If it's not huge, most companies don't go to customers and say, hey, look, I'm sorry. So if you do that, you're going to stand out. And there is no such thing as user error, is what we say at Buffer. If they've done something that is not what we planned a feature to be used for, it's probably because we misrepresented something. Or there's, a tweak in place or user experience component that's not quite working. So let's think about that internally, see if we want to change something. Karina got back to someone, Bethany, and I love this email from Karina, our happiness hero. She's apologized. I'm sorry for the issue we're causing. Apology 2, right after that, is for something completely separate. So I feel terrible. We've been causing these issues for more than a week and haven't given you an ETA. She's saying we failed you because we actually didn't even get back to you in a decent amount of time to give you that extra information. And then she puts her arm virtually around them and says, I'd love to get to the bottom of this with you. Let me walk with you through this, and I will do this together with you, and we will get through this. Like, how much comfort can that give you as a customer? I would love to receive that care, that's for sure. Exceptional care, that was an example from Karina. But then also, what does that specific customer expect from you? And can you surprise and delight them? As a customer base, you can think about what they expect from Buffer. They expect us to be able to schedule and publish their posts in a decent amount of time with low frustration and low barrier to entry. But what does this customer who's coming to me, Jack and Matt and Jennifer, what do they specifically need from me in this moment? And can I go above and beyond for them? So someone came to me, they said they're traveling, but they'll check their analytics on their trial when they get back to see, how it performed. And I said, hey, I hear you said you're traveling. Did you want me to extend your trial a bit so you have a bit more time? So I went above and beyond to ask that. But, I could have even taken a step further and added several days to their trial and said, hey, look, I just added a couple days to your trial just to make sure you had enough time to look at that. Now, that would have been a really great surprise and delight. Thinking about doing the right thing. If something's tugging at you and you're saying, this is not in our protocol, but this feels like the right thing to do. If it's open in your culture of your company, then go to someone and say something and say, this doesn't feel right. I would love to talk about this. What would be a good way for me to handle this? And talking about, creating that human to human relationship. And lastly, communicating with clarity, being clear. The customer doesn't always have the same knowledge as you do working in your industry day in, day out. So letting them know all the little pieces in between the problem and the resolution can be helpful, and sometimes it's not helpful. So making that judgment call of what this customer needs in that moment. So here's an example that's a little separate to that, but I just love this one. So Dave, our happiness hero, has been on a phone call with Yita several times. And she actually came. She is so connected to Dave that she came and said, hey, where's Dave? Is he okay? Because he hadn't been on Twitter because he wasn't scheduled to be there. And Julia responded. And she says, okay, phew, cool, I was worried. And the only reason I popped in Twitter this morning was just to check. I don't usually at this time. He has made such an impact on her. He's been exceptional to her that she needed to check in. Now, Marcia Collier we gave her this huge issue where for her Twitter chat, all of her posts were published 2 hours prior to the start of the Twitter chat. When she scheduled those posts, she was in a different time zone than normal. And in our app at that time, we didn't have a little note saying which time zone you were scheduling for. So she was scheduling for her old time zone, yet she was in a new time zone. And so it didn't calculate right, which was completely our fault. I talked to our engineers, we decided to fix it. And instead of being super verbose, which you can't on Twitter, I sent her a webcam video. And I said, I apologize profusely, told her the solution we're going to have, and, chat a little bit more about just everything surrounding that apology. She came back surprised and delighted, very gracious, and just that human to human connection. I talked to her face to face, and she felt better about that. Another way to use the webcam video would be just simply at the end of an email. You've resolved an issue, everything's hunky-dory, and you just say, thank you so much for sticking with me through that. You were so gracious to me as we worked through this, and it means a lot. I hope to see you around Twitter, whatever it may be. Giving that personal touch is huge. Let's get into productivity. This is our last piece of the webinar. Communicating with clarity. Clarity for our customers. Now, we spoke about this prior, but explaining B through Y, not just A and Z. And using your judgment there, because that's not always the best solution for every customer. But I have been caught in the situation where I have made assumptions that they understand the B through Y. So I've given them the Z, and they come back and they say, you didn't even get what I asked you. And I did understand, but I just jumped way too far ahead. I did not meet them where they were at. So thinking about that with each customer and being aware of what they need from you. Reinforcing also your words with screenshots or videos, like, we kind of mentioned that above. But a picture speaks 1,000 words. It truly does. And if you're able to throw something at them in that way, they're going to get it 100%. And then narrating videos is one of my favorite things to do. They can hear your voice. They can hear you're a human being. You're not a robot. They connect with you on that level. And then sometimes they'll send you videos back, which is amazing. And sometimes they don't, but they understand what you're saying and they feel better about your relationship. And also those webcam videos. So 11% of buffer emails are actually sent with one or more CloudApp links. And I would say that mine personally, I probably send 40% probably of mine include CloudApp links, because it's a super great tool. Just using a visual, any type of visual that you can put in there, even if it's an attached image, or if it's a CloudApp link or something, that's always goes a long way. And then I decided, I was thinking, when I didn't use CloudApp for my entire time at Buffer. I've been using it for a little less than a year and a half. And before that, I would use a video creation tool. And I remember it being like, I used to think like, is it worth me sending a video? Because it's kind of a long time. And I did a little test on a 1-minute video and found that I saved a total of 1 minute and 25 seconds when I used CloudApp, which was amazing to see, because every minute, every second that you save as a customer service person means you can care for another customer, which is always feels great. And even with image annotation, as you can see, these are very, very similar images. I used CloudApp on the top and a different tool for the bottom, and I saved a total of 1 minute and 18 seconds just for a screenshot. How in the world did it take me 1 minute and 33 seconds to put an arrow on a photo? That seems ridiculous, right? So I just wanted to share with you my findings, because I was really excited about it. And so I will definitely continue to send those visuals to the customer. Now, one last thing, we have something we call the North Star at Buffer. Now, this was written by Carolyn Koprash, who is on our executive team, but she took a lot of influence from MailChimp and Zappos and other companies that are just known in customer care. First piece, the customer is doing us a favor and not the way around. They don't have to reach out to us. The fact that they're reaching out to us means that they care about our company. They care about our business. And so they are fighting to make us shape up so that they can get back to using our tool. Now, if they didn't come to us, we would never know, and they would just leave. I'm sure you've done that. I do that. I do that for sure. If I don't care enough about that tool, I will just go on and move on to the next one if I'm hitting an issue, or I'll work around it, which is not the greatest experience. And then lastly, our language and tone should say, I'm grateful for you. I have respect for you. I'm listening. I'm open. I'm here. Wrapping your arms around them, putting your arm around their shoulder like Karina showed, and walking with them through this solution. All right, that's all I have for you today, but we would love to take some questions if you have any.
Absolutely. Thanks, Darcy. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to chat us. Again, that's in your upper left-hand corner of your screen in the Q&A. Looking forward to getting some of those.
Or topics of conversation. If you have any experience in any of this, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so we have one question that's asking about how much CloudApp costs, so that's a good question. So individuals can use CloudApp for free. For teams, if you want to have the same features like some of the ones that Buffer is talking about here, it's a couple dollars per month, but we invite all attendees of today's webinar to use a free trial to try out amongst their team, and we can follow up with you via email on that. Great. Darcy, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Oh, I just had a question pop up. Okay, so there's a question that was popped up. It says, when you mention that there is no such thing as user error, can you give an example of a time when the customer was willfully disregarding your info and how you handled that?
I think when I was mentioning user error, so let's see. it would be, okay, so for one example, this was a real prevalent one recently, but we changed our extension composer, and we moved our power scheduler tab. So instead of having it like in the composer, we moved it off to the upper left-hand corner of their screen. So a lot of people would write in and say, why did you move, or where did the power scheduler go? Why didn't you tell us that you were going to remove the power scheduler, et cetera, et cetera? And, we had to come back and say, it's there. It feels bad saying, it's actually there because we moved it on them. So, coming back and say, we moved this on you. This is completely on us. And we didn't give you we didn't put a bright shining star around it so that you could see it. So because of the feedback, we were able to put something there. But instead of saying like, it is there, it is there, it is on your screen, it's on the upper left-hand corner. Going back to them and saying, this is on us. We changed this on you. We get you. We're human to human. And we did wrong here. So that was one instance where we could think of it as user error. But you asked, if they're disregarding your information. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes we'll go back with a solution, or we'll go back with an explanation of why it's not working the way that they wanted it to work. And I'm assuming this is where you're going with this question. And they'll come back and they'll say, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then they say their next piece. So we'll try a couple back and forths. And if you follow Jay Bear, I think he recommends, if it's kind of hostile, not hostile, but a little bit more emotional, he recommends kind of 2 back and forths. We don't exactly follow that, any sort of rule as far as that goes, but we will do our best to get on that same page. And sometimes we will just need to concede and say, I'm so sorry that we aren't, we're not performing in a way that will work best for you. I'm sorry that we can't meet that need. I would love to be here as a resource for you. And, basically closing off the conversation in a very nice way and saying, kind of going our separate ways mutually. And I did do that one time on a phone call. And it was a similar thing. This person was saying, you should have this feature. It's not a difficult feature to add. I can't imagine it would take very long. You really should have it. Everybody needs this feature, sort of thing. And so at the end of the conversation, after I told him like, this is not something that's in our roadmap. And I feel bad that we aren't able to meet your needs because I really want to do that. Then at the end, we basically parted ways, but on a very good note, because we were talking to each other human to human, understanding. And when I came back and said that I had that empathy for them, I'm not able to do this for you, and that feels bad to me. But basically that's the end of the story. He got it. And he changed it around to understanding and okay, I'll have to move on, but thanks for the call. So it changed from very hostile to very mutual respect. So I think that's one way we try to go, is just showing that respect and understanding.
Great, thanks. So we have a couple more questions. So this one, Darcy, is how large is your hero team? Thoughtful replies need a lot of time on hand and may be quite challenging when you've got a queue to wrap up. Also, what's the one feature on CloudApp you'd really like to see released soon?
Cool. We have 12, I think I could be off. No, 13, maybe 13 heroes and 3 leads and then 1 director. And we have changed up our strategy many times in the inbox. So I would just say, if you're feeling flooded, think deeply about what strategies you can change in your email, your way of attacking emails. You might segregate out your inbox. We have a lot of workflows running. We use Help Scout. So we have a lot of workflows running in there. We work very closely with Help Scout to also think about talk about how we can make things more productive. So that's another thing you can do is reach out to the tool. They'll have a lot of pointers for you, I'd imagine, because they really know their tool inside and out. So thinking about that is great. And then also once it becomes second nature, you should be able to go to customers and talk with that empathy. It really is a muscle. And once you have that muscle, you will be, I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but I am a better person for working at Buffer because I am very attuned to that empathy in everyday situations and, displaying humility in my conversation and just keeping some of those things mindful in your everyday life. Now, I'm so not perfect, but these are things that are on my mind much more than they were before, which I am very, very grateful for because it's not of my own doing. And did I answer that question, Julie?
Yeah, that answers it. There was a second part that was, which I'm also kind of curious to hear, was what feature you'd like to see released from CloudApp?
The last thing I was begging for was, the webcam feature, and you're like, oh yeah, we have that. Because I thought that first that is a huge time saver. I'm trying to think of anything else that's hot on my mind. I'm feeling pretty satisfied. I haven't had any urgent I haven't had any needs pulling at me oh, I wish CloudApp had this. So I might have to get back to you on that one. I guess you're saying that I haven't felt that way.
No worries. Okay, so the next question is, have you ever had customers that stayed mad until the end, or usually they start relaxing when you address their concerns? Any specific process for really unhappy customers that you follow?
Yes, and I think that I kind of touched on that before as far as, coming to them with, first you're explaining or you're trying to correct it. You're trying to fix whatever is wrong. They come back at you still unhappy. And maybe you give a fine answer. They're just not happy with the answer, not the fact that you didn't give a more creative answer. They're just unhappy that it is what it is. So coming to them with that mutual respect, that I respect you and I feel bad. I will say, I feel terrible that we are failing you, because sometimes that happens, and it could be, it's a feature that we don't have that they really want, with that conversation that I had. So just coming to them with that mutual respect is really helpful. And I would say in those situations, really having that voice connection or a webcam connection is going to go a long way. Now, they might still come back to you a little irritated or still the same amount of irritation, but they're going to know at that point that you are, Josh with a face and a voice, and now they can picture Josh in front of them. And it's much harder to yell and scream at Josh who has a face and a voice than it is at Josh who has words on a screen. So I would say I would encourage that. I would at least, think about trying it, something like that, sending some more personal communication, because you can also in your voice show that tone that displays your empathy that you really are feeling. And if you're in customer service, I'm sure you do really feel these things. It does not feel good to have your tool or service or product not meet someone's needs. It doesn't feel good to fail them. These are things we take upon ourselves. And if we can show that authentically, then I think it'll go a long way with those customers who are irritated. And yes, we do sometimes still end conversations where someone isn't happy. And if they are, if there is harassment going on, which there's going to be in any company, I'm sure. We recently had an instance where there was a good amount of harassment and even discriminatory language going on in an email. And at that time we created a process for, heroes to go through if they feel harassed or disrespected by a customer, and what we can do to mitigate that and make it so that they're not worried about coming to work, because that's not great either. So if you do have something that extreme, thinking about ways to, break it off with that customer. And that might mean suspending, their account if it's very hostile and you can't go beyond that, you weren't able to make anything work. Or it might mean, whatever it means for your company, not shipping them more orders or whatever that may be.
Great. We have a couple of follow-up questions. So when you outright say, I feel terrible, you don't have trouble with customers seeing this as a weakness or using it as ammunition to demand unfair or disappropriate compensation?
Mm-hmm.
Has that happened to you before?
That's a good one. No, I would say 99% of the time, saying something like that continues the conversation. It's not like most of them come back and say, oh, thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot. It's not that. They'll come back with a normal conversation, but we're able to get to a solution. They're able to understand that I'm on their side and I'm walking through this with them. And me feeling terrible shows them that, okay, she gets my pain here and she wants to solve this for me. Now, there are very rare instances where I've seen that people, what was it? Someone, there was an issue. It wasn't an issue really with Buffer. It was something with billing, and they weren't charged. It was something that showed up on their credit card account pending, but it was being reversed. So they still saw it as pending, and they were very upset about that. And they said that they would like a free agency plan, which is, pretty much top tier plan for a year. And so we had to, that's a very blatant, it's very telling that what they're searching for. So, we basically say, sorry, we're not in the position to give something like that. It looks like it's resolved on our side, and continue with that conversation or close it off however you need to close it off. But basically, point blank, we're not in the position to give something like that. I'm sorry for the situation. It looks like it's Stripe is saying that it's being reversed. Everything should come through to your account within the next 7 to 10 days. Sort of like that, getting back to the business of it and then closing it out and seeing what they reply back.
Great. We have time for one more question, and this was how to get more customer feedback, how to let them understand that our company actually cares. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how you do customer feedback.
Ooh, that's cool. Yeah, I would say it's hard from Buffer's standpoint just because it comes naturally, I think, through just the Twitter followers and Facebook followers, and the fact, and this might help. So we're super transparent, and we're also transparent about our mistakes on our blog. So I think that opens up an avenue for feedback because people are seeing, okay, they just called themselves out. Let me call them out now, or let me ask for, this new feature or whatever it may be. So that I think that's one component, is showing that showing more of a soul of your company. What are you all about? What do you care about? And giving that inside out versus just, this is our product, this is our service, this is, what is surrounding our service. No, what are you at the heart of the company? So I think that's a huge, huge, huge thought that I'm giving you, but that's one thing to think about. Another thing, just very practical, lower level or more fine-tuned thinking would be, putting out polls and asking for feedback, putting out questions that might not even be asking like an open-ended feedback question, saying, hey, we love your feedback. How are you feeling today in the tool? That might be too broad. So what about, hey, we just revamped the composer. How does it feel? Something like that, something a bit more specific, because maybe you're looking for feedback on that. What are they thinking? Are people leaving because they don't like it? Well, that post, it might open you up to criticism. And in our minds, that's completely fine. It's good that they're getting it out and we're able to see what the issues are before it goes too far and we lose customers over it. So I would say, specifically asking for specific feedback, putting polls out, maybe with 3 or 4 choices, and it could be, any spectrum. It could be like, maybe you do what's it called, fashion line, and hey, what are you feeling for summer? What are you feeling for summer? Would you like to see more printed shorts, more geometric designs on shorts, solid colored shorts, or whatever it may be? So, just having some of those specific aspects and specifically asking for that feedback is always helpful. One more thing that we do is we are on a platform called User Voice, which is a voting platform. So Buffer customers will come on and they will just go and they'll vote on things, or they can even they can submit their own vote. And we put that vote up and then other people can upvote it. So our highest one previously was Instagram, wanting Instagram and Buffer. And that we put it on our roadmap because everybody really showed us that they really wanted it, and we came out with it. So that's a very, very useful way of seeing, okay, crowdsourcing, right? Of seeing what people need. It's not an end all be all because, a lot of people aren't going to know about the vote or be able to vote or care to vote, but it is a tool.
Wonderful. Thanks, Darcy. I know we're a little bit over, so we're going to kind of wrap things up. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining, and we will follow up with everyone with an email to all attendees and registrants. If you have other questions, I know there were a couple that we couldn't get to, we can follow up with you on that. We'll also send a recording and slides and a link to a free CloudApp trial. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Darcy?
No, just definitely always feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. We try to be super active on Twitter. And if you want me to chat, definitely CC or put on my handle as well, so that we can continue the conversation. I would be honored.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.